Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very senior professional and author and speaker from Tel Aviv, Israel, Mr. Yarin Kimor. Yarin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much, and all of you, welcome.
Thank you. Yarin is an Israeli expert and speaker on systematic creative thinking, and he's an author. And all of you know I'm very partial to authors. He's an author of a book titled The Magic of Creative Thinking. So, Yarin, before we start talking about creative thinking, tell me about your own journey.
Well, there's 2 or 3 major points in my life. The major point is taking part, unfortunately, in war as a combat soldier in '73, and it was quite traumatic, and I think it influenced my life quite a lot.
Wow.
In terms of values, that all the status, the being famous or having a lot of fortune and so on is not important. First of all, it's death and life situation. So it brings you to a very positive way of thinking about life, about the importance of the real soft things in life, values, vision, kindness, human approach, and so on. It sounds too spiritual, but I really believe in it, and I try to live according to it. And the second thing is being an investigative reporting in the Israeli television for 35 years, concentrating mainly on security, on the Mossad, the secrets of the Mossad, the creativity of the Mossad that made him so legendary around the world, and trying to crack the secret in spite of the fact that they're not willing to do so. So it was a very delicate balance between both. And currently, a series of mine is airing nowadays. And the third one, which I do about 27 years, is how to develop creative thinking in a way that is not dependent on skill or inspiration, but can be adopted by everybody. No matter if you think about yourself that you are square or creative, in both cases, you can be more creative than you are if you're equipped with the right techniques that I share with the audience. And I believe in an experiential way of teaching. So I do it with using by using magic tricks, sophisticated ones that illustrate the path from the impossible to possible. If we'll have time, I'll show you later on.
No, so I'm going to come to that. I mean, and I would love to talk to you about your 38 documentary television series also, but let's come now to systematic creative thinking.
Yeah.
Tell me, Yarin, how do you define systematic creative thinking? And please give me an example.
Okay. Well, I don't know how to teach how to be Picasso or Leonardo da Vinci. I don't think that they knew how to do so. But I know how to teach you to be more creative by techniques that were researched scientifically all over the world. The Americans concentrated on the sociological and psychological background of the inventor. The Europeans were concentrating on the process itself, and the Russians were concentrating on the end result. They took 40,000 patents, and they found the common denominator of the creative principles behind them, and then they shared it with people like us.
Right.
So I took the creme de la creme of all of them and added some of my own and some of the Israeli approach, which became the startup nation. We are leading in startups.
Yeah.
With India, we are leading with startups in the world. And according to the Jewish principles of the Talmud, ancient Judaism of 2,500 years ago, while a lot of the old scrolls contained a lot of principles of creativity, how to deal with things, how to bridge all kinds of contradiction that cannot be bridged, and still you can do it by systematic ways. So I did it myself. Well, later on, you wanted an example. Here it is.
Yeah.
An example that I did use these principles, not just to speak about them, but to prove it by my own deeds. I made a documentary about a lady that lost her two sons in the war. And for the Memorial Day, then came another lady in the kibbutz and asked me, what about my son? You say that because the brother of my son is still alive, it's not good for television because you are looking for two. That was a terrible question. That was a huge fence that I couldn't overcome. But because I'm familiar with the techniques of creative thinking, I used maximization, which I call it the technique of maximization. You cannot overcome 3 meters, try to crack it by raising the bar to tens of thousands of meters, because then it forces you systematically to think differently.
Correct.
So I understood that I cannot cope with that lady. So I raised the bar to 23,000 casualties of Israel during Israel's war. And then I offered the television management to have a roller of 23,000 names annually that will commemorate and will give respect to all the families. So what couldn't be solved with one person was solved by 23,000, and because a tradition of 20 years since I raised this idea, and they accepted the ideas, and all the families getting their own 6 seconds of commemoration, but they really have a full heart because of that. So I'm very proud on this because it contributed so much to so many people.
Very interesting.
Using systematic way,
Very, very interesting. So my next question is, that can creativity be taught, or are we only born with it?
No, I referred to it already. I do believe that you can be more creative in any age.
Okay.
Sometimes I lecture in front of 70 years old people, audience 80. No, you can be more creative in any age.
Correct.
In any status, in any intellectual property, whatever. Because if you adopt the principles and if you are trained by the techniques and the exercises, you become more creative, and then you feel more happy, and the happiness and the openness makes you more creative. So it's a magic circle. And I do it by trying to track, to hunt all kinds of cliches that we are slaves of. For instance, we say you cannot square the circle. You can circle the square, and you can do it so. I do it by let's say I'll show you some slight immediate example. This is possible, right? But this is impossible because every doctor would say it's a 3-degree burn. It's a real fire. You see, it's a real fire.
Can you raise it a little higher so we can see?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's a real fire, yeah.
Amazing.
So if you were here, you can enjoy the nice aroma of barbecue.
Wow.
But I use it as an illustration to show you that when you face the impossible, it can be possible, as the name of the book that I wrote in Hebrew, as you mentioned in Amazon, it's called The Magic of Creative Thinking, but in Israel it is published.
The Impossible Made Possible.
And this is the name of my workshops. And I believe it as a way of life. And I prove it. It's not just, trying to think about eternity and hoping for the best. No, it's practical. And I really believe that you can do it in any age if you learn it. And the learning is not difficult. The learning is part of the fun. That's the reason that I use also magic tricks. Because, I can let's say, I can show you some kind of this one. Let's say this is a white
Cloth, yeah.
I show you bare hands, open, and still it can be and contain all kinds of things like that,
Wow.
which we don't believe that they were there, and it can be go on and on. I can show you that it's empty, okay? Still, I can go on with taking out all kinds of things.
Right.
So it's not a magic show. It's a thing that actually challenge our perception about wrong assumption, because we think that it is sleight of hands, but I do it with slow motion and in front of your eyes and in front of your controlled rational thinking suspicion, and still it works. So that's why it creates a lot of involvement, a lot of curiosity. And that's what I would like to achieve with the audience. Because
so tell me,
sorry.
Yarin, you gave me 3 examples of the circle, of the fire, and the cloth. How does this magic help to increase creativity?
Because first of all, it's magic, and creativity is magic.
Okay.
But it's not a magic of fairy tales. It is practical, because after I show the magic tricks, we translate them and we transform them to actual problems in life, as I elaborated with the lady that lost her sons. And if I create the motivation and raise the motivation by increasing the involvement, the curiosity, then people are equipped to go to their own life and to solve their own problems according to the techniques that and to implement the techniques in their life. So it becomes very serious. And in my book, I elaborated hundreds of examples all over the world that people use these principles and make a lot of breakthroughs. That's why I did it 3,000 times all over the world. IBM, Microsoft, Bloomberg. I've been in India too, in the Chamber of Commerce and so on. And it is something that you don't use an excuse. It's not a magic wand. Sometimes it's impossible. It's really impossible. But at least you have an extra bag. When you reached an impossible situation, you suddenly have an extra bag that you can use by using these techniques. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you try. But
very
usually it works.
Yeah. So let's now talk about your book, Yarin, The Magic of Creative Thinking. And you said in Hebrew, it is the impossible made possible.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your hypothesis when you wrote this book.
Well, I thought that nowadays people do not tend to read too much in general. And I wanted to do it in a friendly way, but not in a just shallow way. So I decided that I will divide it to very small segments, sometimes with fun, as I do with the magic tricks, sometimes with fun, with jokes, but the jokes and the fun and the humor are bound to the serious content. So you can read 5 minutes before you go to sleep, and that's enough. And then it is gathered gradually to a whole logic after you finish the book. But the process itself is friendly. So I thought it's a very good approach. And the same with the kit that I developed. I developed a kit that is called Think Outside the Box. And it is contained, again, because of the experiential approach that I believe in, it is contained from riddles, that the common denominator of all of them is, how couldn't I think about it before? But at first, you know nothing about the solution. So you raise this moving card and you see the fixation. Usually it fits your own way of thinking. Then you raise it a bit more and you see the clue why you can solve it. Then you turn the card and you see the solution. And then you lower this card and you discover the most important, the food for thought. What have you learned out of all this process? So in the same token, it's a learning kit, but it's also a game for the whole family, and it is fun, but it is really cause you to be more creative by using the food for thought.
Tell me more about the think outside your box.
So I'll give you an example. Instead of speaking about it, I'll demonstrate it. There was an actual problem of 6 people that were caught in the middle of the fire and they couldn't make it. So could they survive? The fixation says no, because the fire and the wind are too fast. Impossible. The clue asks you, can the fire can be a friend, not just an enemy? How it can be a friend while within 3 minutes it will burn me? It can be by using the technique. First of all, instead of escaping, you light a fire here, you let the wind carry the fire to this place, and then you go and run away after the fire that you lit. And when the real fire will come up to here within 3 minutes, it cannot burn the same place twice. It will be stopped here. You are safe there. Problem is solved. The tool is the Aikido. The system of the Aikido. Use the power of the opponent to defeat him. Using the power of the problem to solve it. So at the moment that you relate to each problem as a potential for breakthrough, not as a problem, you can reach a lot of, and I'm familiar with hundreds of them. Of course, at first you have to be more familiar to the fixations. Here are the fixations. I won't elaborate all of them, but there are dozens of fixations that we are not aware to them. Patterns, mental blocks, misconceptions, wrong assumptions, wrong questions, and so on. And we make a maintenance in the workshops. We make a maintenance to our mind, because usually we tend to make maintenance to our cars, but our mind is more important. So we have to make maintenance to our mind to uproot fixations, to unchain all kinds of patterns and habits, and then we become more open to new ideas.
Wow, fascinating. So I'm now going to move to your television series. You know, I'm not spoken to someone who has such a wide range of specialisms. You know, someone who's worked in the army, someone who's written a book, someone who does magic, and is also a film, author and producer. Tell me a little bit about your series on the Mossad.
Well, as I told you, it's a great challenge because, of course, they don't want to reveal any secret. It's within their DNA. And as a journalist, I would love to have these secrets, but they don't want to reveal them. So it's a battle of wits. It's a challenge. While I respect their position, because I know, and as an Israeli citizen, I'm lawful and I don't want to violate the security on one hand. On the other hand, they respect me about the right of the public to know. So it's a very delicate balance, and there are a lot of creativity invested in these negotiations, and it's a lot of creativity investing in dealing with the censorship, because Israel is a democratic country, but we still have obviously some censorship about security, and I have to deal with them, and they are not the dark organization. They are familiar with the modern curiosity and the right of the public to know. So I respect them, they respect me, and we negotiate. And I had a lot of achievements revealing all kinds of issues about the creativity of the Mossad, because how come that the Mossad, which is very young compared with the CIA, the KGB, the MI6, and so on, succeeded so much? Because we broke all kinds of rules, because we embraced failure. Failure is a wonderful lesson for life, because it diminishes the number of failures that are there on the way to success. And they let you, and they forces you to think differently. So the Aikido is also a technique. If you don't embrace a failure, you let the people understand that they are not allowed to fail, and then they would never try to dare, and then they would never will make any breakthrough. So the only way to let the people be free enough to reveal new horizons is to let them fail and hug and embrace their failure. Of course, not as a not as a way of life, not to fail all the time, but that's part of the secrets of the Mossad, that the freedom to think differently, the freedom to challenge the commander, to challenge the rules. And all this is not so common in countries like Russia or China or whatever, where discipline is more important because
Very
they have to conduct much more people. They have hundreds of millions of people or billions of people, and then they have to be very well ordered. In Israel, we just have 9 million. So within 9 million, you can be more flexible.
Correct. Well said. But Yarin, is this series only in Hebrew or is it available in English?
Some of them are available in English. I made a 5-part series about China in '94 when most of the people rode bicycles and nobody thought about the huge revolution that came after.
Yeah.
And it was there was also an English version. The series was called China Time. And I made a series about the Avengers, the Jews that took revenge from the Nazis that killed 6 million people, 6 million Jews, and there were Jews that revenged. And there was nobody knew about these stories, but 1,500 Nazis were killed within this revenge, and it took many years to negotiate with the, till they agreed to expose their deeds and methods and so on. So it has also an English version, and there was another English version for the Israeli agent that reached the secret speech of Khrushchev, the former head of the Jewish of the Communist Party in Russia, that revealed Stalin's crimes. And all the secret services all around the world chased this speech, but Israeli agent reached it, and then it was spread all over the USSR, and one copy reached Gorbachev, which 30 years after was impressed from this. And I interviewed Gorbachev about it, and he admitted that this speech caused him to think about perestroika and glasnost, and change the whole and crack the whole empire of USSR.
Oh, amazing.
So I actually touched history by interviewing Gorbachev about this story.
Yeah.
And there was an English version for this. Yeah.
Fascinating. Since you mentioned Mr. Gorbachev, I met him in Davos many years ago. And of course, then I was much younger, and he invited me for a conference on peace. So perestroika and glasnost that you spoke about, I suddenly remembered that story. But
I think you
coming back,
history too.
Absolutely.
To speak with Gorbachev, it's something that irreplaceable.
Absolutely. So my last question to you, Yarin, and this is for the many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey as a journalist, as an author, as a teacher, what would you say are 3 lessons you want our viewers and listeners to take away?
I would say, first of all, try to be yourself and not a copy of others' expectations on your soul, because then you're nothing. You have to justify your birth instead of dealing too much with the question if there is life after death. Prove every day that there is life after birth. And for this matter, you have to express your own personality, your own fingerprints tips on your life, and try to do it with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of delight, because otherwise you are slaves. And I think many years ago, we passed the time of being slaves. Now, it doesn't say that you have to be delightful every second, but you have to have the meaning of your existence. You have to be aware of it. You have to ask yourself about it. What do you contribute? And you don't have to contribute inventing the wheel.
Correct.
Even the inventor of the will is anonymous. Nobody knows who is. But
Yes.
but express yourself in your relations with your kids, with your family, with your friends, with your work, with the poem that you write, no matter if you're famous or not, or you got a lot of money for this or not, as long as you have the self-satisfaction that you created something, and you don't just say the creator, the God, took the whole credit, and we have nothing. We are so tiny. No, maybe we are tiny, but we are significant, and we are the creators of ourselves. And for this matter, it's not just slogans. We can practice it and prove it daily, and have all the fun and all the respect, self-respect, and the respect from others from the contribution that we gave.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, Yarin, your amazing lessons: be yourself, justify your birth, express yourself, be honest with yourself. Thank you for talking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for talking to me about systematic creative thinking. Thank you for talking to me about your book. And I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Mr. Yarin Kimor's book on Amazon. I will go and check it out myself. Thank you also for talking to me about your series. I'm going to look for it. I'm sure you're aware that Israeli series are very, very popular in India. The most popular one, of course, is Fauda, which everyone seems to be watching all the time. Thank you again for taking time to speak to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you for your kindness and very interesting questions that led me to give some interesting answers. I hope so.
Thank you, Yarin. Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.